The title of this entry is The Importance of Swearing. I'm Jack Lynch. This is being recorded August 8th, 2020. The occurrence of these events was somewhere in the neighborhood of 1996 through 1998 at two Time Oil Company terminals. These are oil terminals with large tanks on either side of the Willamette River in Portland, Oregon. I was a terminal operator there. In 1996, a tanker ship laden with jet fuel tied up at the dock at the Linton Terminal. It was going to be there for, about 18, 19 hours, offloading 60 or 80,000 barrels of the product. It was my job to be the dock supervisor. Person in charge is what the Coast Guard called it. I would use the crane to lift up a hose from our dock, usually a 10-inch hose, and hang it over the side down onto the ship. They would connect it to their pump area. And when everything was ready to go in the tank farm and ready to go on the ship, they would commence. My shift was from 7 in the evening until 7 in the morning, all the dark hours. I was down on the dock by myself. When the pumping commenced, there were no glitches, no problems. Everything was pretty close to normal. The crew of that ship were all American. They seemed to be fairly well trained, and the process just moved ahead. Somewhere around 2 o'clock in the morning, I was sitting back in the dock shack with the door open and the windows open, just watching the lights and listening to the sounds of the able-bodied seamen working on deck. One of them must have screwed up. I didn't see it and I didn't know what it was. But the chief mate, the first mate, did. He was an old salt. He'd been around. He was in his mid-30s. He caught that sailor and he chewed him out. Told him what he did wrong, told him why he did it wrong, told him how he was going to fix it, and also told him how he was not going to make that mistake again, in all seriousness. That took less than a minute. After that, just to let the sailor know that he had a good sense of humor, that first mate proceeded to chew him out using all the dirty, nasty, filthy words that I've ever heard. Weren't any new words there, but the way he used them was impressive. He didn't repeat himself. For 15 minutes, this guy called that sailor every name in the book, changed it around so it involved his family, his genetics, his friends, everything about him. He worked him over, and he did not smile and he did not act friendly. But to see the look on that sailor's face, he was smiling and holding back a laugh. He was being told that he was a good guy. Fast forward a couple years, around 1998, I'm working the dock as the person in charge at the St. John's Time Oil Terminal. That's in North Portland. And a ship comes in. This was a tanker ship that was laden with diesel, and it was all Russian crew. They tied up. We hooked the hoses up. I went on board to the captain's quarters for a meeting. And these meetings were usually with the captain and the first mate and myself, or whoever the person in charge is. And they cover what the product is, how much they've got, when we'll start pumping, the rate of pump, and anything else that they may need to know or that we may ask. When I got done with the meeting, everything was clear. I went back down to the dock shack, put my paperwork out, and proceeded to wait. Samples had been taken, and they normally take about 3 hours for the lab to get them, test them, and give the results. No product will move unless it's been accepted. I hadn't been down the dock shack long, and the chief mate, a Russian guy named Yuri, came down, knocked on the door, said, "Come on in, sit down." He sat down. I says, "What can I do for you? What do you need?" And in good English, he says, "Oh, Mr. Jack, I need your help." I says, "Sure." He says, "Can you teach me to swear?" And all of a sudden, that incident back over at the Linton Terminal a couple of years earlier came into mind. The chief mate there used swearing as a guiding hand for the sailors, and this is what Yuri was after. And of course, I gave Yuri a hand. Over about an hour, we covered all your basic words that end in K or T or U. The dirty words. The words of disdain. Socially unacceptable words. And I did my best to show him how to use one word 5 or 6 different ways. How to use these dirty words and bad words to point a finger of blame, finger of guilt, make the person look stupid. We went through all the different conjugations of these certain words. Figured I'd cover it fairly well. He'd probably remember some of it anyway, and with practice, he'd remember the rest. He thanked me and he went back on deck. That load from the ship went into the tanks, The ship took off. Never saw that ship again. We rarely saw the same ship twice anyway. But about a year after that, another ship came into port, tied up, and I happened to be the person in charge. This was another ship that was offloading in the middle of the night. I went on board, went up to the captain's quarters with a first mate that I'd never seen before, and sat down at the table and said, "Shall we start the meeting?" The first mate said, "Yes." So we went through all the details. First mate was acting strange. He's nervous, almost upset. Finally I stopped and I says, "Are you worried about something?" And he just looked at me. Deer in the headlights. "Is there someone else around here that's watching you?" I just had that feeling. And he sort of looked at me and looked down. I said, "Is that person in this room somewhere?" Because it was a large quarters. He looked down again. So I craned my neck, looked way around into a dark corner, real dark corner. And I saw someone standing there. And I said, "Are you the captain?" The man came out from that dark area with a big smile on his face, a grin. It was Yuri from a year before. "Yuri! Oh, Mr. Jack!" I said, "Are you the captain?" "Yes, I'm the captain." I said, "Did that special lesson in swearing help?" "Oh, yes, it did. It gave me power."